There are things you stumble upon online that you just can't unsee. I thought I knew where this was going. I was wrong. The dark side of Thailand's internet is deeper, quieter, and far more disturbing than anyone admits. I'm inside now, and you're about to be too. Between 2015 and 2023, Thailand unknowingly became the stage for one of the most disturbing serial murder cases in its history. For nearly a decade, a woman named Sararat Rangsiwuthaporn, later dubbed by the media as cyanide, allegedly murdered at least 14 people, most of them friends, acquaintances, or close associates, using cyanide poisoning. What makes the case particularly horrifying is not only the number of victims, but how long the crimes went undetected, hidden behind misdiagnosed natural causes, institutional failures, and personal trust. The story begins in July 2015. When a woman living abroad returned to Thailand and was picked up at the airport by her 36-year-old friend Sararat, known as Am. The two had a financial relationship, as the victim frequently lent Am money. Shortly after arriving, the woman died from what was officially recorded as acute heart failure. At the time, nothing seemed suspicious. Cyanide poisoning was not considered, and the death was attributed to natural causes. However, the victim's mother later noticed troubling behavior. Am did not attend the funeral or cremation, and soon took control of her daughter's assets. When questioned, Am reportedly spoke harshly to the grieving mother, claiming the victim's husband had asked her to sell the belongings. Despite these red flags, authorities did not investigate further. Over the next 8 years, similar deaths occurred. In total, 13 people died suddenly after appearing healthy only hours earlier. Many were reported to have collapsed unexpectedly and died of heart-related issues. In a country of more than 70 million people, such deaths did not initially raise suspicion. Crucially, neither authorities nor citizens considered the possibility that Thailand was facing a serial killer, let alone one who targeted friends instead of strangers. Everything changed on April 14, 2023. On that day, Am traveled with a wealthy 32-year-old friend named Khoi to the Mae Klong River to perform a Buddhist merit-making ritual, releasing fish into the water, an act believed to bring good karma and protection. Tragically, the ritual ended in death. After releasing the fish, Khoi collapsed by the riverbank and later died despite attempts by bystanders to save her. Am was nowhere to be found. Adding to the mystery, Khoi's cash, phone, and expensive designer handbag were missing. After knowing Khoi for over 10 years, Am showed almost no concern. An initial autopsy once again cited heart failure as the cause of death. Khoi's mother, however, refused to accept that explanation. She insisted her daughter had been healthy and fit when she left on the trip. Overwhelmed by grief, she became convinced that her daughter had been murdered. Trusting her intuition, she filed a formal complaint with the Central Investigation Bureau on April 19, 2023, and denied being with Khoi at the time of her death. Determined to find the truth, Khoi's family enlisted the help of a family friend who publicized the case online, focusing on locating Khoi's missing vehicle. When the vehicle was found parked at a house belonging to a policewoman connected to Am's ex-husband, suspicions intensified. A second autopsy proved decisive. Forensic examiners discovered fatal levels of cyanide in Khoi's blood, stomach, and liver. Experts concluded that the poison had likely been mixed into food or water while Khoi was in Am's car. Surveillance footage confirmed investigators' fears. CCTV showed Am and Khoi walking together toward the river. Am crossed the road under the pretense of using the restroom while Khoi continued alone. Moments later, Khoi collapsed. When Am returned, she briefly waved for help but then walked away without checking on her friend, leaving her to die. Footage also revealed that Am took Khoi's belongings, worth more than 154,000 baht, about $4,500 US. On April 25, 2023, police arrested Am at a government complex in Bangkok. She was found in possession of cyanide and detained at the Central Women Correctional Institution. At the time of her arrest, she was pregnant but later suffered a miscarriage in custody. Searches of Am's home and vehicle uncovered damning evidence: suspicious liquids, empty pill capsules, stolen belongings from Khoi, and forensic traces linking her car to the poisoning. News of her arrest triggered a wave of revelations across the country. Families who had lost loved ones under similar circumstances came forward, suspecting that their relatives had also been murdered. Police reopened old cases and identified 13 previous victims who shared one crucial connection. They had all traveled with Am shortly before their deaths. A massive investigation followed, involving 900 witness interviews and a case file spanning 26,500 pages. Among the cases was that of Nipa, a policewoman. CCTV footage from April 1st, 2023, showed Nipa sitting with Am before suddenly slumping forward and collapsing. Am remained on her phone, showed no urgency, and walked away without offering assistance. The pattern was undeniable. Authorities concluded that cyanide poisoning had been systematically overlooked in earlier autopsies. When forensic experts re-examined files, they found cyanide in multiple victims' systems. In other cases, medical professionals reviewed photographs and noted classic signs of cyanide poisoning, including darkened lips, nails, and hands. Cyanide is tightly regulated in Thailand, and possession alone can result in prison time. Investigators traced Am's cyanide purchases to a Bangkok-based factory. The poison deprives the body's cells of oxygen, often causing sudden cardiac arrest, perfectly mimicking natural heart failure. A breakthrough came when Kantima, a survivor, contacted police. She had lent Am 250,000 baht. During a shopping trip, Am gave her pills described as cough medicine. Soon after, Kantima experienced chest tightness, vomiting, respiratory failure, and cardiac arrest. Am ignored her calls for help. Kantima survived only because emergency services revived her. Her testimony confirmed both intent and method. Police identified financial gain as the primary motive. Am had accumulated massive debts from online gambling. Financial records revealed that 78 million baht, over $2 million US, had circulated through her accounts. She borrowed money from friends and, when unable to repay, poisoned them and stole their belongings. Authorities documented 3 primary killing methods. 1. Poisoning victims during meals and taking them home to die. 2. Poisoning victims at their homes and abandoning them. 3. Sending cyanide-laced diet pills by mail. All victims had lent Am money. Investigators also uncovered accomplices. Am's ex-husband, a former senior police officer, helped hide stolen items, forge documents, and possibly create alibis. He surrendered on May 3, 2023. Evidence also implicated Am's lawyer, who allegedly assisted in concealing evidence. Further revelations included attempted insurance fraud. Am had tried to purchase a large life insurance policy on a boyfriend shortly before his death, intending to collect millions in benefits. The policy was never finalized. Am faced over 75 charges, including premeditated murder, attempted murder, robbery resulting in death, food adulteration causing death, and document forgery. Her trial ran from July to September 2024. On November 20th, 2024, Am was sentenced to death for the murder of Khoi. Her ex-husband received a reduced sentence after cooperating, and her lawyer was sentenced to 2 years in prison. All were ordered to pay compensation to the victim's family. Observers were disturbed by Am's demeanor. She reportedly smiled during sentencing and showed no remorse. Though additional cases remain under investigation, her conviction brought closure to many families. The case exposed deep failures in forensic practices, policing, and judicial oversight. For nearly a decade, a serial killer exploited trust, friendship, and institutional blind spots, becoming Thailand's deadliest serial murderer and its first known female serial killer. On May 18, 2012, Cho Hong Hung, a 28-year-old Taiwanese man, was arrested in the heart of Bangkok's Chinatown when police found something aberrant in his possession. Inside his suitcase were 6 roasted fetuses, painted gold and covered with gold leaf. This man had acquired these bodies through the dark web in Thailand. The seller was another Taiwanese man, to whom Cho paid around $6,600 for the bodies. Cho's idea was to do business with them. He would buy them cheaply and then sell them for a higher price on online platforms, specialized in these dark markets. But why were they roasted and painted gold? Everything had to do with a superstition known as human tongue, or golden child, an esoteric fetish that, according to the beliefs of some people in Southeast Asia, consists of amulets that contain the spirit of a child. But not just any child, rather a deceased one. According to this belief, they bring good luck and protect those who feed and care for them. As strange as it sounds, these amulets are figures that have a very active black market, especially online, not only in Thailand but also in neighboring countries. In fact, the dark web has facilitated the growth of an entire illegal trade in bodies and dark rituals, allowing superstitious and morally bankrupt people to buy things like this. The worst part is that this is not an isolated case. This has happened more than once. In fact, in 2010, Thai authorities made another chilling discovery in Bangkok. Inside a Buddhist monastery, they found nearly 2,000 fetuses that came from illegal abortion clinics, all stored and ready to be sold online. And of course, these bodies were also used for dark rituals, among other things I'd rather not explain to you. Once again, the internet became the platform that allowed these macabre exchanges to take place with astonishing ease. What's most disturbing is that in Thailand, boys and girls are not only affected by this type of market, there is also a multi-million-dollar CP market that is almost unstoppable. However, there was one particular case I want to talk to you about: subscriptions for CP content. In 2017, during a routine operation by the Child Crime Unit of Thailand's Department of Special Investigation on the Dark Web, they came across a series of extremely grotesque CP images and videos. These came from a paid portal created in Thailand with nearly 63,000 subscribers and millions of monthly visits. In other words, this site was like a Netflix for abusers, who, with a monthly subscription, could consume all kinds of CP content. On this site, it was possible to see children, all under the age of 13, including babies only a few months old, being abused by a strange man. For years, while Thai authorities were investigating, this site functioned like a factory of barbarism, publishing new content every week. The person behind the site was as meticulous as he was sick. He hid the children's faces, removed audio clues, and erased any visual trace that could give away those involved. Everything was coldly calculated so that no one could identify the victims or the abusers. Obviously, that didn't stop the agents. To track down the children and stop this atrocity, they began studying every detail of the abuser's physical appearance: scars, moles, the shape of his ears, hair color, and any feature, no matter how small. They also asked for help from the international community. It became a global manhunt against the clock, using even the smallest clue to reconstruct who they were and where they might be. Thailand's Department of Special Investigation teamed up with Interpol's Bangkok office, and investigators from all over the world joined forces to identify the 11 children and track down the degenerate administrators of the site. From the United States, the Department of Homeland Security managed to trace an IP address, something crucial to finding them, and that's where they started pulling the thread. At the same time, Europol, Bulgaria, New Zealand, and other countries also supported Thai authorities in locating these degenerates. They helped take down the site and organize and store all possible data on the abusers, which was later distributed to allied countries. They were getting closer and closer, not only to those responsible for the site, but also to anyone who had interacted with it in any way. Even those who had visited it just once were being tracked. One of the IP addresses they found led them to Adelaide, a city in Australia. This caused the Australian Federal Police to join the operation. At this point, several countries were collaborating to catch those responsible. And I'll tell you something, when a country truly wants to catch a criminal, it does. The first victims were identified in November 2017, which made it possible in January 2018 to arrest several people in Thailand and Australia. The mastermind and main administrator of the site was named Maitri Salangam, and he was located in Thailand. This man not only ran the portal, but was also the same person who appeared accusing the 11 children in the videos, including his own nephew. This man had a method for luring his victims. He offered them food, internet access, toys, and a giant television to watch soccer matches. That's how he gained their trust, and then he took them to his house to do the worst things imaginable. And of course, this sick individual didn't work alone. He had a partner who helped him from Australia, Recha Tokputsa, who was also captured during the investigation. When police examined his computer and phone, they found thousands of images of minors taken in Thailand and Australia, and in most of them, this man appeared as the main accuser. The youngest victim identified during this man's trial in Australia was only 15 months old. That is, Recha Tokputsa did exactly the same thing as Salangam, but in Australia. The good news is that justice eventually arrived. In June 2018, Thai courts sentenced Maitri Salangam, the mastermind behind this entire nightmare, to 146 years in prison. He received the longest sentence imaginable, and although they came down on him with full force, we know that will never erase the damage he caused. But it didn't end there. A preschool teacher who had ties to Tokputsa was also arrested. This man received 36 years in prison for the same crimes as Salangam. And to top it all off, on May 17, 2019, Recha Tokputsa, the other monster in this story, was sentenced in Australia. He received 40 years and 3 months in prison, making it the longest sentence ever imposed for child abuse in Australia. Personally, that seems like too little for what he did. After handing down the sentence, the judge literally said that the crimes committed by this man made him the worst nightmare of children and the greatest terror of parents. Thanks to this operation, 50 children were rescued and 9 people involved in this international CP network were arrested. One positive thing we can take from this case is that it became the starting point for a series of investigations that spread across the world, leading to the capture of many more people involved in the distribution of CP content in Thailand, Australia, and the United States. And the truth is that children are not the only ones affected by the dark side of the internet in Thailand. Adult men and women are also victims of extremely disturbing practices, such as cyber slave camps. This came to light thanks to the testimony of a 24-year-old man from Sri Lanka named Ravi. And I warn you, if you are sensitive, this might be the moment to pause the video, because what comes next is not easy to digest. They took off my clothes, forced me to sit on a chair, and applied electric shocks to my leg. I thought it was the end of my life. But how did Ravi reach this point? He had traveled to Thailand after accepting a job offer from a supposed technology company based in Bangkok. However, upon arriving, he realized that nothing was as promised. At first, he was welcomed by the company and housed in a hotel along with other people who also seemed to have been hired. That same day, the entire group was handed over to 2 armed men, and that's when his nightmare began. These men took them near the border with Myanmar, crossing the Mo River, to reach the hell where they remained for months. Around 40 young men and women, including Thais, people from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and African countries, were locked up with me in this camp, which looked like a World War II concentration camp. High walls with barbed wire and entrances guarded by armed men prevented any of the abductees from escaping. I imagine you're thinking, okay, this is horrible, but what does this have to do with the dark side of the Thai internet? Well, that is precisely the reason for the kidnapping. All of these people were forced to work around 22 hours a day, carrying out online romance scams with only 1 day off per month. I spent 16 days in a cell for refusing to obey them. They only gave me water mixed with cigarette butts and ashes to drink. They beat me, electrocuted me, and forced me to watch as they tortured the other abductees who didn't obey. On the 5th or 6th day, they brought 2 girls into a nearby cell and they were abused by 17 men in front of my eyes. I think that traumatized me more than any physical damage they could have done to me. The idea was that, using fake identities and profiles, the abductees would pose as women to deceive lonely men in the United States and Europe, countries where purchasing power is quite high. The modus operandi was as follows. If they found a good target, Ravi and the other captives had to establish a romantic relationship with them, flirt with them, be charming, have erotic conversations, and send explicit photos. These photos were of the kidnapped girls in the camp, taken under coercion. After winning them over, they had to persuade them to invest large sums of money in fake trading platforms that promised quick returns. They were literally cyber slave camps. If a target invested $100,000, they would return $50,000, telling him that was his profit. This gave him the impression that he now had $150,000, but in reality he only recovered half of his original investment, leaving the other half with the Thai mafias. According to the FBI, there were more than 17,000 reports of this type of scam in the United States, totaling approximately $652 million stolen from U.S. victims alone. The only way captives could save their lives was by paying to get out. At least they had one option to cling to freedom. That's what Neil BJ, a 21-year-old Indian man, did. However, his case is even more cruel, because it was thanks to a childhood friend of his mother that he ended up in this situation. This friend had promised him a job as a call center operator in Bangkok, charging him around $1,800 as a commission to secure the job, a job that obviously didn't exist. He would have been tortured, like the others, and would probably already be dead. Neil's family paid around $7,000 to secure his release, and it was Thai authorities who helped him return to India to reunite with his family. Meanwhile, Ravi remained kidnapped, and after 1 month he was sold to another mafia because the company he mainly worked for as a slave had gone bankrupt. The worst part is that this wouldn't be the last time. In the 6 months he was held captive, he worked for 3 different gangs. When he ended up in the hands of his final boss, the only thing Ravi begged for was to be allowed to return to Sri Lanka with his family. But of course, they didn't let him go. Over time and desperation, Ravi got into a fight with one of his bosses, which led to him being tortured for another 16 days. On the 16th day, the main mafia boss went to see him and offered him one last opportunity before killing him. Ravi was valuable because of his knowledge of software and his technical skills. For another 4 months, Ravi managed Facebook accounts, VPNs, artificial intelligence apps, and 3D video cameras used for the scams. After so much insistence on being released, the mafia boss finally agreed, but only on the condition that Ravi pay a ransom of $2,650. He managed to get the money after being allowed to contact his family, who had to take out a loan and put their house up as collateral. And yes, believe it or not, Ravi was released after spending nearly 6 months in hell. He currently works day and night in a workshop to pay off the debt left by the ransom. And the worst part is that Ravi is just one case among thousands that exist in these cyber slave camps. What is most chilling about all of this is that behind the screens, the Wi-Fi, and the platforms we use every day, there is a subworld where human life is worth less than a subscription, where children are seen as merchandise, where bodies are sold for rituals, and where fraud, abuse, and suffering are just one click away, all for money. Thailand is not the only country with this kind of digital darkness, but it is one of the countries that has accumulated the most extreme cases in recent years. And the worst part is that much of this happens without the rest of the world finding out, or without wanting to find out. And that's all for today. Thank you for staying till the end of the video. If you'd like me to explore the dark side of the internet in a specific country, leave it in the comments. The comment with the most likes will be the next video. Thank you for everything, and I'll see you in the next one.